Vanner lovers, Jordan Lumen here with Vanner Lover TV, and today we're going to talk about buying a horse. Alrighty guys, before delving into the particulars here, I just kind of want to say that this is my third attempt today to film this. It has been a rough day technology-wise, so hopefully this time around we get it right. Also, I want to give you guys an update on the upcoming fundraiser. I will be launching a mini fundraiser this weekend and over the week next week to raise money for Vanner Lover TV. Now, my goal is to raise $200 in this mini fundraiser so that I can save it for travel expenses for Vanner Lover TV. I am handcrafting bars of soap to sell for the fundraiser, and if this fundraiser is successful, I will be doing a larger fundraiser to raise $1,000 to take a trip to Florida and visit some Gypsy Vanner horse farms to showcase on Vanner Lover TV. If we can all make these fundraisers a success, it would be so amazing. Alright, now on to the nitty-gritty of the third video in the Buying a Horse series. The general idea of what you should take away from this video is that horses are expensive, no matter what their sale price is. Even if these horses are free, it's still going to cost you a lot of money to actually be able to care for that horse. So, even free horses cost just as much as expensive horses do to care for. And I'm going to sort of go into depth about how this relates to a sale price of a horse, as well as how it can help you evaluate a horse that is for sale. So prepare yourself for a very lengthy video. I want you to think of the asking price of a horse as its face value. Now, I'm going to give you a bit of a background on the annual cost of owning a horse to better evaluate the purchase price of a horse. So let's talk about how much it costs to care for a horse. Seeing as costs depend on personal preference and location and all of that stuff, there are a lot of different ways that you can calculate the cost of owning a horse. So I'm not going to delve into a lot of different things because it would make this video a billion times longer than what it needs to be. So I'm going to use me and my personal desires and goals as an example. Get ready, guys, because it's gonna get deep. Boarding a horse in a full care facility versus keeping a horse on my own property once I have it ready for a horse or three are pretty close in costs. So to simplify, I am making my average cost and my own calculations based on the area that I intend to raise a horse to demonstrate how it's going to cost me to, how much it's going to cost me to care for one broodmare. If you haven't already gotten the drift, I want to breed Gypsy Vanner horses. That's what I want to do. I will include a link in the description to a website that will help you analyze your own costs. It's a really awesome calculator that will give you an idea of what it would cost for you to own a horse or what you're already spending on your horse or horses if you don't already know what you are spending on your horses. It's pretty eye-opening, so it's a very useful tool. To provide basic care for my broodmare with the costs spread out on a monthly basis, food, water, shelter, which is farm maintenance, bedding, non-breeding vet care, always have a budget for something like that, farrier, tack supplies, insurance, grooming supplies, worming, and truck and trailer maintenance expenses. All of those things are things that you need to consider when you're owning a horse. It's going to cost me on average $500 a month. Costs will vary greatly based on where you are and the demand of the local vets, farriers, and supply shops. So use the calculator. It will give you a really good idea on what it will cost you personally to own a horse. Notice that I did not include training or showing in the costs above. So suffice to say, basic bare minimum yearly cost of horse ownership is $6,000 a year. For the sake of argument, let's say that I get a mare that is already trained and already well handled, and she is 4 years old and ready to be bred to her first stallion for her first foal. Let's also say that it's January and we plan to breed this mare in February for a foal due in January of the next year because it's an 11-month gestation. So we also want to consider that we do not have a stallion on site and have chosen to use shipped semen to impregnate her. Now let's add yearly breeding expenses into the equation. A stud fee on average is going to cost you about $2,000 for any proven and known stud. With DNA verifiable heritage and registered with the GVHS, which is my preferred registry. Before even getting semen from a stud, we have to have our mare checked by a vet to determine if she is optimal for receiving shipped semen. That average cost is $150 for that exam. Stud fees may or may not be may or may not have a live full guarantee. They may include a non-refundable booking fee, any additional vet fees for collection, which is $300 on average, deposit on a shipping container, which is $300 on average, shipping fees, which is about $350 on average. Be sure to read your contracts. More on this in a breeding series coming later this year. So to simplify, let's say in addition to the $2,000 stud fee, there is also $1,000 in additional fees associated with just getting the semen to you. Alrighty, so now you have the semen and you need to put it in your mare. Most contracts on shipped semen require a vet to inseminate the mare if there is a live full guarantee. On average, this is going to cost you $200 and will usually include a pregnancy check at 18 to 21 days. Now let's assume that your mare becomes pregnant on the first try and there are no further complications. Congratulations, but don't celebrate yet. A lot of mares lose the foal between days 21 and day 60. So it's best to get another pregnancy check at 65 days. And this is going to be another expense of about $100. Now, a completely frivolous and luxurious fee would be to add another vet check at 85 to 95 days of pregnancy to see if the sex of the foal can be determined. Now, sex checks on average are about 85% accurate, and it's a fun $125, but is definitely not necessary. I'm going to add it in anyway because I think it's fun, and I don't know if I plan on doing something like that, but I like to think that I would. Months 5, 7, and 9 of the pregnancy, there is a shot that you can give that will decrease the odds of a late-term abortion, early labor, stillborn foals, and things like that. Now, it doesn't absolutely guarantee that this does not happen. However, it does lessen those risks. And that shot is called Pneumabort, and it costs on average $20 a shot. If you are able to administer the shot yourself via IM, which is easy to do, and you just have your vet show you how to do it, or you can pay extra for the vet to do it for you. Now we are at month 11, and the foal is being born. Let's assume it's a very successful birth, with a live, healthy foal, and the vet did not need to be called out to assist. It is still important to have the vet come out to test for certain abnormalities soon after the birth, and this is going to cost you about $100 on average. So let's recap and add up all of these additional costs. For 1 year of broodmare care and breeding expenses, it's going to be about $3,735. I like to round up and add a buffer there for contingency because that's just the kind of person I am. 10% is ideal, but you know, we'll round up to $4,000, and so that's $6,000 for basic care of that mare for the whole year, plus $4,000 in breeding expenses just to get her pregnant. This means on average that the cost of caring for a broodmare is just under $10,000 a year. So yeah, $10,000 a year basically. That's if everything goes 100% right the very first time and the foal is born healthy and mom is healthy after the birth. Oftentimes multiple tries are needed, especially if you have a mare that has never been bred before, or one that hasn't been bred for a very long time, or just because it was a Tuesday and your mare didn't release the egg till Wednesday. I mean, that's just what happens. It's the reality of breeding. Just because your mare doesn't catch on the first time does not mean that she's not a good brood mare. It just means that she's a mare. It's just what happens. Now, I told you all of this so that you can put into perspective the asking price of any horse from any breeder, okay? So, knowing the cost of caring for a horse, no matter what breed it is, it's going to be about $10,000 to produce a foal if you only have one mare and you're breeding to an outside stallion. It's very expensive to produce that one foal. Foals priced under $10,000, especially for this breed, raise some red flags for me. And so what this means is that I need to know the breeder, basically. So I want to make sure that my foal is being properly cared for before it gets to me. I want to make sure that the mare is being properly cared for. So, you know, when you're looking at buying a horse and you see a horse that's priced less than $10,000, really know what you're getting into. Make sure that the horses look like they're being cared for very well and all that kind of stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, they have some huge expensive operation or whatever, but, you know, just make sure that the foals are being cared for properly and the proper vet expenses are going into making sure that that foal has the best shot at life. Now, it should be noted that when you have multiple mares and a stallion on site, it lowers your cost significantly to produce a horse because you can share costs over your herd. It's cheaper to have a farrier come out and do farrier work because you have multiple horses for him to do and not just one. It can be cheaper for your vet to come out and do work for you because you have multiple horses that they can view. So, you know, they can get a lot more done in one day and in one visit than with just one horse. So it can lower your cost significantly if you have more horses and a stallion on site or local to you to breed to. So, so whenever I see a farm that has breeding stallions on site, and you know, a foal costs, you know, $6,000 to $8,000, that doesn't worry me because that's probably about the cost that it takes to produce that foal. So but anyway, it's still a good idea to check in on things and make sure that everybody's getting proper medical care, proper farrier care, and all that kind of good stuff. Make sure to check out feet and things like that. Okay, I'm going into a different buying a horse video that will be coming up after I finish this video. So I'm going to move along here. Now, when people ask why do horses cost so much, I have to sort of grin and bear it because I know the average cost behind breeding a horse. And there are so many other costs that can be associated in owning a horse. Training and showing are very expensive endeavors, whether or not you can or cannot do it yourself. On average, you are looking at spending several $100s a month to send your horse to a trainer. On average, if you want to send a horse to a trainer, you are still responsible for basic care needs like vet and farrier and boarding. So you're probably looking on average at about $1,000 a month just to get your horse trained if you send your horse off to go get it trained. That's, you know, pretty expensive. Now, showing isn't cheap, and I haven't calculated the average cost to show a horse because that's an expense that I plan to take on as I can save up for it and afford it. I have much respect for those who show their horses and for the horses that have been conditioned to do very well in the show ring. It's very expensive and very time consuming, and a lot of hard work, sweat, blood, and tears goes into making a horse show ready and getting a horse to a show. So mad props to those who take on that endeavor and, you know, make sure that their horses are showcased for the breed in that way. Right now, that's not an expense that I'm going to be taking on personally, but it is something that I will save for so that eventually I can show. And, you know, but that's something that I'm going to cover in the breeding series that I do.